What is up, Whale family, and welcome to Blockchain Beats, where we explore the pioneering artists taking audio and music to the next level of emerging tech and interactivity with NFTs. Our guest today is Dubai-born singer Julian Lamadrid, whose seamless blending of musical genres and visuals turns heads with an eclectic presentation like no other. Julian, thank you so much for joining us today.
Cheers for having me, man. It's a pleasure.
For the people in the audience that may not be familiar with you or your music, can you just tell us a little bit about yourself?
Well, I mean, look, my music, it's definitely like if someone asks me what type of music I make, I can narrow it down to pop, but pop is kind of limiting, At the end of the day, pop is just this wishy-washy term. Like, it just means popular music, and that changes, every decade or so. So when I really try to articulate my music, I kind of say it's this kind of eclectic blend of the different genres that made me and that I care about and that I strive to create. But when I really narrow it down, it's just I strive to create music with beautiful melody that is vulnerable and that is true to how I'm feeling at that time. And so, like, for me, music really is just like a therapeutic tool to vent. If I didn't have music, I'd probably be on, like, I don't know, in Times Square naked, like rambling on the street. For me, it really is just that thing. Like, it keeps me sane. And so there's some days that I want to make a more electronic kind of techno tune with a four to the floor kick. Some days I want to make a nice love song, ballad type tune. So it kind of evolves, but I think definitely the through line within all of my art and with all of my music is that I write, I produce it all by myself. And so me and myself as a character definitely shines through it. So, I mean, yeah, that's kind of like a cheap answer of how to describe my music, but it really just is an extension of myself and my experience of life, sonically.
And you can definitely tell there's a lot to it. Like you said, you can ride various influences and genres, and I'd love to talk about that just a little bit. You in your childhood were in Dubai, is that correct?
That's right. Yeah, I was born and raised in Dubai. Both of my parents are Mexican, and my dad kind of went to Dubai because he got fired from his airline in Cancun. And so the only airline that was hiring was Emirates Airlines. And now it's like a big airline. Obviously, it's like very luxurious. But when I was born in Dubai, it was like 1998, and there was nothing. There wasn't the buildings, there wasn't the malls, there wasn't the ski slopes. So I kind of grew up alongside the city. My first 10 years of life was just like, every other month that you say, oh wow, look, that's a new mall. Oh wow, look, it's a new building. Oh, that's the tallest building in the world. Oh, that's the biggest mall in the world. And yeah, as I grew up, it was just kind of this constant experience of like discovering a new city because the city was kind of discovering itself. So, but yeah, I didn't necessarily enjoy my upbringing there, but it is the city that I was raised in. So yeah.
Yeah, I found that interesting. You were very creative, and you had these impulses to wanna create and just be around vibrant culture, and you found that kind of lacking where you were, just because, like you had said, it was a city in flux. Dubai was, where you were, was finding itself. There's a lot of commercialization, obviously, for tourism and a lot of the different things happening, and you were drawn to just go elsewhere. Can you tell me a little bit about that feeling of just wanting to be around a more creative space?
Well, yeah, I think by nature of the fact that Dubai was strictly, I think planned to be a touristic city, and so the whole idea was, okay, let's just have attractions for tourists to come in, and it's kind of this, like, I've heard the analogy of the Las Vegas of, like, the East, and that's kind of what it was. So if you were somebody who was interested in, going to a water park or seeing a nice car, then it's great. But if you actually care about culture, heartbeat, substance within a city, it was completely void. And so it was, especially in my teenage years when I was about 13, 14, and I was kind of growing up, you're an adolescent, you're kind of wanting to rebel, and I didn't really have that outlet because it wasn't like New York City that you can go in Greenwich Village and stumble on your next favorite band just playing in a bar somewhere. Dubai just didn't really have that infrastructure. It didn't have an artistic scene. It didn't have a music scene. It was very strict to do anything, drinking. I had a band when I was about 14, kind of the quintessential angsty teenage rock band. And we couldn't even play gigs because there wasn't anywhere that if you were, 16 years old or 15 years old, that you could play. You had to be 21 to play any shows. And so all of the bands that I really loved, whether it was like, I don't know, at that point, maybe LCD Sound System or The Strokes, it was like Metronomy, all these really cool groups. I would never have had the chance to watch them live or to even feel as if I was a part of that moment sonically, because I was so far removed from it. So like, that's why the internet kind of is, one of the greatest tools in the history of mankind, because it gave me the exposure to fall in love with David Bowie and listen to the Smiths for the first time. I wasn't hanging around with kids that were listening to this music or sharing it around. There wasn't, it wasn't that type of upbringing. So it was kind of this exploration through, music blogs or YouTube or wherever it was, all through the deep canals, that I figured out the sound that I was into. And of course, my daddy, he was a great inspiration of mine in terms of his musical taste, Pink Floyd, The Who, Genesis, and really great classic rock bands. But when it really came to finding my own voice and trying to figure out the community that I wanted to belong to, it was really just the internet that gave me that opportunity. And it was always looking out, being this boy in a bubble, looking out, thinking, oh, one day I'm going to live in New York. Oh, one day I'm going to walk through the streets of Paris, smoking a cigarette. All these kind of like, teenage delusions and dreams, kind of romanticizing what it is to be an artist and what it meant to me at that time. And I just didn't have the opportunity to live that life in Dubai. So I came to New York, which is great.
So when did that happen? That's fascinating to me, because you longed for it and you were able to just make it happen at, I assume, a relatively young age, right? You're talking about having these longings when you're a teenager, and
Well, it was like, alongside my discovery of like music and how much I cared about, creating music, writing music, and getting better at that. I was also, I'm a massive cinephile. So I was that kid, at 13, going and trying to watch every single night one film, going, top 100 films, and then you find, 400 Blows, I don't know, Schindler's List, The Departed, and then going from those films and being like, okay, I really liked 400 Blows, and then discovering the French New Wave and Jean-Luc Godard and Romer and Agnes Varda, and then from there discovering Italian films. So like I was always watching films, and one of the common themes in the films that I liked was like, whether it was Midnight Cowboy or whether it was, I don't know, even Spider-Man, which is quite simplistic, but everything was kind of leading to New York. All of Martin Scorsese's films, it was New York. And so, as a kid who just hates where he's living, I was always like, well, New York it is. Quick Google, best, school to study film in New York, best school to study film in New York. NYU was one of the first answers. So I just kind of worked my ass off and got into the school, got into NYU. And then, as soon as I could, I was 18 years old and I left Dubai and I went to university, and I've been here since. It's been about 5 years almost. And I was right, I fucking love it here. It's the greatest place, greatest city on earth. And I say that with, obviously I'm subjective. I live here, but I've had the opportunity to be, go around the world. My dad being a pilot, which is, a massive privilege. And I always come back to here, and this is the first place that, like, doesn't matter how crazy you are, it doesn't matter, how serious you are, or whether you want to wear a leather jacket every single day of your life, or whether you want to walk around with a baseball cap or dressed up as a cowboy. New York is for the mad people, the ones who dare to have a dream. And really, I remember when I got here, it was kind of this feeling that I'd been longing for my whole life. Like, oh, I feel at peace with my surroundings. I feel that I'm not an obstacle in my environment. I'm aiding the environment in some ways, in some form or another. So yeah.
Right. And it sounds like really, you feed off of the vibrancy and the authenticity of the city. I think I read somewhere you were talking about, seeing people that are disheveled, or seeing people, not just the glamorous aspects of being in Manhattan, right? Like seeing the nitty gritty, being on the subway, all of that feeds your creative energy.
Yeah, I mean, my first record, which is kind of a conceptual album, it kind of tells the tale of just those first 3 years of being in New York. And it was like, New York is one of those places that you better be willing to surrender to getting to know yourself truly and personally, because at the end of the day, you're in this city that is so densely populated, but it might be one of the easiest cities to feel alone. Despite everybody around you and all the movement, it's really, I don't know if you're familiar with the term solipsism, but solipsism is basically the belief that all of your reality is created and is an extension of your own mind. So everybody, is just characters within your own story. And like, New York is a place that it's quite easy to feel solipsistic. And I think, it was within the first 2 weeks that I was here, I was walking down the street and I just got back from class, and it was like, I don't know, 8 p.m. and hadn't eaten anything all day, and I'm walking home and I'm starving and I'm kind of miserable. And I just got smacked on my back, like the hardest hit, like just a massive hit. And I turned around and it was just a homeless guy, and he just smacked me and he was screaming at me, like completely disheveled, as you said, and kind of, not say anything. And it was one of those moments that it's like, you're put to the test as an individual, because every cell in my body wanted to just burst out in tears, like, what the fuck? But New York does these things. It throws these things at you, whether you are on the subway and there's vomit on the floor and you've just had a long day and you've only had a slice of pizza and you're miserable. But it's within those moments of pure discomfort that I think I've gotten to know myself the most I ever have in any other, moment of my life. And so it puts you really face to face with yourself and the strength that you have to find within yourself in order to keep going. It's New York. Yeah. A lot of the time it is this kind of thing about like, oh yeah, you got to be hungry. You got to be ambitious. It's the city. If you make it here, you can make it anywhere. All the stuff, all the cliches. But I think something that's often not talked about is that New York, more than anything, it's just, it really puts you to the test as an individual to get to know yourself. And once you find that rock deep within yourself, it's like, it's the best, it's the greatest place, because you definitely discover it kind of puts you face to face with your own aspirations and taste. And there's something here for everyone, but yeah, it's not as easy as LA. The weather isn't perfect. The subway stinks a lot of the time, but all those little things make you love it even more. So I really, yeah, I love New York. You can obviously see that. I plan on staying here for a very long time.
You can definitely tell. So all of this rich influence and all of the nooks and crannies of, the idiosyncrasies of that environment and all of the things that you bring to the table with your various influences and upbringing, how would you characterize your music and sound?
So, as I mentioned previously, I got kind of at the very start of the conversation, which, by the way, sorry to have a quick, just a quick interjection. We're going to send out a link to everybody, and we actually just posted a link to an airdrop, and it's the first piece of the NFT artwork is live right now, and we're giving it away for free for the first 150 people who fit the criteria. And yeah, so the first 150 are free. The next drops won't be, so just be on the lookout for more NFTs. But if you see that link, you should go check it out, claim it, and get it. But to answer the question again, sorry for the interruption. If I were to describe my sound, if I were to describe, my art in general, I think it really is, as I mentioned, an extension of myself. But more than anything, I'm quite happy wearing it on my sleeve that it's just me. I'm desperate for a connection, and my whole life I have, and I think everybody inherently is. We're kind of in this world, and we like to strengthen. We like to say, solitude is bliss, and all these different things. And yeah, definitely self-love is the most important thing. But I think I create music because it's the part of me that I'm able to put down in paper, whether I've had a shit day, whether I'm feeling like I'm in love or whatever it is. I get to put it down somewhere and share it out to the world. And for the most part, that to me means that it's like a time capsule. It's like writing a diary that you find in the attic in like 40 years. My music, it's a summary of my experience as an individual. But for the most part, the sound itself, I would say that it's pop music, but I'm definitely trying to push the genre further. And that's something I'm very keen. Like I really, for example, like with the record I'm working on, it's kind of like, as an artist, you're always thinking of places to grab inspiration from. And my record is, Yeezus by Kanye West is one of my favorite records in terms of the production. So there's a lot of elements of Yeezus. I'm a massive fan of Daft Punk. I'm, hugely influenced by Joy Division and New Order. So all I do is try to splice these things together. So like, what would a Daft Punk song sound like? Or what would a New Order song sound like with the 808s of Yeezus? And what would it sound like if I took the distortion of a snare drum and put it over some beautiful synth chords that you might hear in like a Kate Bush song from the 80s? So in terms of production, in terms of sound, once again, a really long answer. I think it's pop music that attempts to push the genre further and test the boundaries of what can be beautiful in that space, whilst also paying homage to the music that made me, which is quite more often than not music from the late 70s, early 80s in England, which is like a definite period that has marked me forever.
Yeah, definitely. When I was taking a listen prior to this interview, I was taken aback by the influences that could definitely be gleaned from it. There was certainly hip hop beats and rhythmic stuff that reminded me of 2000s hip hop. There was a lot of cool synth work and even vocoders. I'm a sucker for vocoders, by the way. 70s and 80s.
It's amazing.
Yeah, right. So it's awesome stuff. So you touched on your major influences as well. I'd love to let the viewers take a listen to some of your music, and then they can have like a frame of reference. So we'll take a listen here. This will be 15 minutes. Well, you guys are on to me now. Prior to this interview, I was actually checking out some other new music, and that was the latest single, Saturday. That actually just dropped last night, right?
Yeah, it dropped on midnight. Yeah, that one's kind of a funky, boogie tune. I had to put it out for summer, so if you guys are in the mood for a little dance or whatnot, it's a good tune to play.
Definitely. And you could hear all of those influences that we discussed for sure. I think literally you could go down the list of them, from the vocoder to, some of the rhythmic drum stuff and whatnot.
Yeah.
Really, really, really cool stuff. And that's just a visualizer, right?
Cheers. That is just a visualizer. Actually, I designed it alongside one of the lead designers and, one of the lead creators and architects of the entire NFT project that I've been working on. His name's Noah Kim. And we created a kind of just a visualizer that ties it into the dystopian cyberpunk aesthetic that we're building for our NFT universe. And just a quick thing as well, the link to the first artwork in that collection will be dropping maybe later this month, but we put a free NFT up. It's in the stream text channel. So if people are looking for it, you can find it there. But yeah, that's a visualizer that we animated, that we created. It's kind of a blend of different inspirations. The poster's quite clearly an anime poster, but the actual surrounding within it is that kind of Blade Runner, cyberpunk kind of dystopian aesthetic.
Right. Yeah. I just wanted to clarify real quick, because after you had mentioned, and you guys are already dropping to the community, giving them all kinds of goodies and alpha here on the whale community.
Yeah. We have to give back.
Right. So really the objective here, guys, is, well, I don't want to get too much into the drop, but I've seen some questions with regards to the NFT in particular, and some people citing the 200 whale. If you had 200 whale in your ETH wallet, you qualify for this drop. There's only 150 editions. So go there, be sure to claim yours, and be able to, be one of the people that are able to use that when you go into this new universe that Julian's building. And we'll talk more about that in just a few moments. But again, if you had 200 whale in a wallet at the time of the snapshot, which I believe was a day ago, you can claim this NFT for free. Just pay the gas, and that'll unlock some cool stuff that we'll discuss here in a few minutes. And so one other thing I thought was really cool, I saw that you actually had performed at Mercury Lounge, right? Was it 2 nights ago? So after COVID, I'm sure, you were itching to get back out there.
Oh man, I can't even describe it. Like it's strange, because I was just on the cusp of playing live shows and really having my music translated live in the way that I'd always dreamt of. Like the whole idea of having people singing my songs back to me was completely, it was such a, I don't know, ambitious idea. And then I was on the cusp of it, and then obviously COVID hit and everything, so it was stripped away from me, which in hindsight was probably the best thing, because now, a year and a half since I played my last show, I went onto stage, and it felt just so much like I had so much more appreciation for how special that moment is when you're in the room, when you're performing your music, and people in real time are right in front of you singing it back to you. Like it's a big party. And so we had booked I was booked to play Lollapalooza, and that's next weekend. It's about in a week. And I was like, dude, I can't go from, not seeing a single human being being stuck in my house to all of a sudden playing the biggest festival show of my life. You can see my name in the list right at the bottom corner. But yeah, so this is my first festival gig. So the idea was play a show here in New York to just get warmed up, to run the set list, which is a completely new, track list for the show. And it went really well. It was amazing. It was all I could ever hope for. We're back. playing live, man, it's indescribable, the feeling. And I was playing a lot of new music that's going to be on my up and coming album, and the reaction was amazing. And about that, I wanted to tell you that if you're into vocoders, I think you're really going to like the record that I've been working on, because it's definitely, I use a lot of vocoders, man. So I think you're going to dig it.
I definitely am. I'm a sucker for old Zapp and Roger Troutman and a lot of old stuff. Nice. So I'm looking forward to it, and especially seeing how it's going to be incorporated into the project that you guys are dropping. Another thing I thought was really cool in watching some of your videos is, there's a real cinematic quality to them, and it makes sense now that you told me you were a cinephile and went to school, for cinematography and whatnot as well. Talk to me about storytelling and how that's an important aspect of your art, to holistically have it with the visuals and the music.
Of course. I mean, so for me, and this kind of all links into everything that I'm going to talk about in terms of the world and everything, like, to me, you have these like sandwiches, art, let's say. Film to me is the greatest beast of them all, because film is this kind of mix and it's kind of the sandwich essentially of music, photography, acting, video, like cinematography, and storytelling and script writing and writing in general. And so music is everything in one. Film is everything in one. Music to me is a part of that. So I always had this aspiration. I always had the goal that if I'm making music, I have to be the one to translate it visually, because it's so intrinsic to me. When I'm writing the song, I'm already closing my eyes and having visions and seeing what this could translate to when I take it from sonics to visual. And so like, it's been amazing because I signed a record deal, which has granted me a bit of economic freedom to do some of the crazy ideas that I have always dreamt of doing with my songs. And like 15 Minutes, for example, which is just, on paper, it's a pop song, that I wrote, trying to create, a kind of pumped up kicks, kind of very formulaic pop song in some ways, but scientifically thinking about pop and thinking like, look, people deserve to have music to dance to. And unfortunately, right now in the modern world, pop music, I think it's not hitting the mark. Most musicians right now and artists, they're fetishizing depression and isolation. And I think that the thing that makes pop so magical, whether it's ABBA, singing Dancing Queen at the top of your lungs, or whether it's, David Bowie singing Let's Dance, or Heroes, like the thing that makes this music that is popular, that is brilliant, it's joy. And so I was writing 15 Minutes, and for the video, I was like, oh my God, I had this vision of, if I am this person who's writing a pop song for the sake of writing a pop song, then I'm essentially trying to show a holographic version of myself, a transparent version of myself. So then I start thinking about, what if I'm this performer, a holographic performer, and at the end I unplug myself and I can take back my own, independence and righteousness, and the real me is shown. So all of these ideas swim around my head, and the beauty of filmmaking is that like now I kind of have a team around me, and I do have the skill set, and I've honed my art enough that I've begun to translate exactly what I have in my mind into the visual. And it's hard to work with other directors for that purpose. I've only done it once, and the video just never came out, because like it's so deeply personal to me, that connection between sonic and visual, and that if the actual vision is butchered because somebody didn't understand it or didn't feel it the same way, I'm always like, look, I'd rather be upset at myself if the video comes out shitty, but to be upset at somebody else because I trusted them to translate my song, my baby, into something visual, and I don't like it in the end, then it's my fault, So then it's really, then I do get upset because I regret. And so the best thing for me is just like, I have these songs, I have this, I write music right now. As I said, it is a therapeutic outlet for me. But ultimately, I want to direct films. And after that, I would like to design furniture. After that, I'd like to design a house. After that, I'd like to paint. There's all these different forms of self-expression. And to me, film is just this beautiful level up from making the music, where it's like, okay, you have this piece of music that makes you feel something. Now, what do you see? And that leap is something that it excites me more than anything at all. And then, so ultimately, just, I'll finish chatting soon, but ultimately, this next leap that I've just done with the help of New Kino, with the help of Noah, with the help of a Billy, of engineers, of people that understand this. Billy's part of the team. And basically, since I met New Kino, which is a group of guys who are helping me create this vision of this universe for a conceptual album in a digital virtual space. And it's not like translating a song into a music video. It's so much larger, because for the first time, you can enter a space that has been born and inspired by a piece of sonics, by a piece of music, but it's completely transcends just the sonic experience of listening to something. The world we're creating is a 3-dimensional space that you can move through, that you can interact with, that you can actually like become a part of and feel that a certain sense of ownership and pride and belonging. Because I won't give it away too much, but really what we are creating, I think it's really brilliant, because there's been conceptual albums in the past and all the greats. Pink Floyd has Pink Floyd The Wall, the film, and you've had The Dark Side of the Moon, you had David Bowie's Low. It's not a new concept, but the idea of taking this conceptual record and creating a 3-dimensional virtual space that takes the sound. I can only use a metaphor of like, when you take words from a page and bring them to life. This is like taking sonics. This is like taking a story and pulling it and extracting all of it, and we've actually created a world from it. So I'm beyond excited to show you guys and for people to actually interact with that world, because we've been working so hard on it, and we're almost there. It's gonna be dropped pretty soon. And this first NFT that we're actually just mentioned to everyone that you can claim right now, that is the first key to enter this universe, and you're going to need it to walk inside in our virtual Rebels universe, which we've created. But yeah, I guess I didn't really answer your question on storytelling. I think storytelling is the most important facet of any art form, whether it's painting, whether it's designing, whether it's interior design, whether it's a piece of music or acting. If the story isn't there, nothing's there. But when you have a good story, that's when it gets really interesting, and that's when the fun begins, because that the possibilities are endless. And I think that's kind of what this piece of work that we've created, this NFT, this virtual space, this universe, is an example of that. That the limits really are endless. From the inception of something as pure as just a song, as a record, that we've taken it and we've really pulled this thing all as far and found all the richness that we can from it. It's the greatest feeling on earth. So yeah, I'm excited.
You can definitely hear the passion, and that goes a long way in this space, right? The authenticity of the people that are bringing these things forward. So I'm sure a lot of people will be excited to experience this kind of holistic conceptual project that you've done. You had mentioned how you try to tie together that visualization thematically with the music you were doing with 15 minutes in particular. And if you don't mind, I'd just love to show people that so they can see it in action.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. Sounds good.
And hopefully this time I get the right one. So if not, I'll give you the description afterwards again. That was dope.
Cheers, man. So yeah, that's a little bit, that really, the whole song is a teaser to the world, and that character in the end is, as I mentioned, like meant to be a representation of the real me. I'll be releasing a music video for the next single in probably about a month or so. And it's kind of, it starts where that video ends, and it's the extension of it. So yeah, really, like every kind of facet of this rollout we've thought about, and I've had enough time, COVID and whatnot, to think about every aspect of it. And so it's so exciting to watch it coming out, and see people react to it.
Yeah, and the new album's titled Rebel of the Neon God, and you can definitely see what would like allusions to Blade Runner with the neon and the various goggles and things of that nature. Can you tell us more about that and why you chose that name, kind of the creative process behind that?
So there's actually a film, a Taiwanese film called Rebels of the Neon God, and I watched it when I must have been about 14 or 15, and always that title stuck with me, Rebels of the Neon God. It's a really beautiful film. You should check it out. It's kind of like Wong Kar-wai, Fallen Angels, that similar aesthetic. And I remember always just thinking about this term, the Neon God, and then I was listening to The Sound of Silence by Simon and Garfunkel, completely, this was a couple years later, I think I must have been in somebody's dorm or something, one of those stupid nights where somebody's playing some music that's too somber and nobody really wants to listen to it. But I remember being kind of magnetized by the lyrics and really listening to it for the first time. I'd always heard this "Hello, darkness, my old friend," but I heard this term again, and I heard the Neon God. The line within the song is, and the people bowed and prayed to the neon god they'd made. And as I was writing this record, I wrote this one. If my first album was kind of this elegant summary of my first 21 years of life, and this reflective and deep emotional outpour. This album, while I was writing it, and the only overarching emotion that I could feel was frustration. And it was a time where I was just really angry, and like I remember not being able to know why. I think it was a culmination of different things. I think I've always been longing for a connection, and the moment that I felt that I could be in love or that I could have met somebody, I would kind of run away from it and be scared. So it was this paradox where like I wanted that. Then in general, politically and whatnot, obviously, we had there was a lot of political turmoil, and that was definitely tough just to experience and have around me, like this kind of blanket of I have to care, the news and whatnot, and the world is just inherently sad, and I was frustrated by that too. And then I was also frustrated because like my own generation, there's this kind of narrative of self-pity and of feeling that we're owed something, and hating the world around us, rather than this idea of being able to make your own bed, of stoicism, of understanding that you have the power to do whatever you want, because we have ultimately all of the power within us and all the strength within us that we can find to create something beautiful and to follow our dreams and whatnot, not to be cheesy. But all of these things were swimming around, and I was writing this record. I was writing about love, about frustrations, about not being able to find it when I do, running away, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And I began to identify with that lyric, the neon god, and I began to understand it further. And I began to realize that the neon god was this thing that we all pray for, but it's completely void and vacuous. The neon god to me is fame. It's clout. It's politics. It's power and greed. The neon god is this thing that we're told that we should worship. It's, the viral, celebrity, all these things like that we're told we should worship, that we look up to, and that we laud at. But in reality, once you achieve these things, you'll be left feeling emptier than you were before. And so that kind of evolved from this idea of the neon god. It evolved into the rebels of the neon god. And once again, I went back to the film and well, there it was. It was lying there the whole time. That this idea of it's a rebellion. The record in itself is a call to arms for people that I think that are like me, that are kind of done with feeling down and done with being told that this is life is hard and that we're owed something. And it's kind of saying like, no, you know what, through this frustration, through this isolation and solitude, I will find my own ecstasy. Through the vacancy, I will find ecstasy. It's enlightenment through pain. And that's what the record really is a testament of like of this balance, this very delicate balance between frustration and dance and love. And I think that to tie into the cyberpunk world that we created, that was more because of the sonics of the record. I was very into like kind of exploring, electronic elements that I don't necessarily feel have been really explored in modern pop music. Whether it's using the 4 to the floor kick, like the way the Daft Punk did with their first record, which is like just like a relentless beat that we felt throughout time, that you can feel in your heart, just that boom, 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 punches like that. Like that to me, okay, I'm exploring that. And then what if I have this Roland synth pad on top of it? But what if the vocals here at this section are completely distorted and auto-tuned? And it's like, I mean, Kanye West has definitely been a great teacher and a great proponent in kind of like, pushing auto-tune to its limits. But the idea is like, look, I can sing and I know I can sing, but how do you use these different things and these different tools to create something that's sonically rejuvenating and original? And so the sound ended up being dystopian. The sound ended up being distorted and rugged. And that translated perfectly in my mind. The only way that I could see this record coming to life was a cyberpunk aesthetic. And now it's translating into the universe we created. We really have gone in and decided to create our own version of what, the metaverse, a tiny fraction of a corner of what the metaverse could look like, of what a street corner would look like, what that feeling of walking through the 2064 street is, what it is walking into a club in 2064. And so we've definitely been pushing this idea of like, okay, if we go through the way we're living as humans, in terms of how we treat the environment, in terms of how we treat ourselves, in terms of how we pity life, let's see where that takes us. And the story that we've kind of crafted in this world is a story of a child, of a boy, who, yeah, for sake of, you know, the argument, it is an extension of myself again. And it's this story about somebody who feels utterly alone in this universe, and the world is ending, because in this, you know, dystopian, you know, alternate universe, there's a black hole that is just at the edge, and we're about to cross over the event horizon. And the world that we've created is kind of like the last fleeting glimpses of life, before that event takes place, you know, 80 years down the line, 60 years down the line. And that's kind of like, you know, a little synopsis of the visual world, of the virtual world, sorry, probably more than I should be saying, but yeah, so I even forget what the original question was. I kind of go on these tangents just because.
No,
Yeah,
that was awesome. It all ties together for sure. I had asked
Yes.
you, you know, why the title, and it leads perfectly into what you guys have created. So my understanding is Rebel Universe is the virtual world inspired by the album, and kind of taking that into something that's experiential. So holistically,
Exactly.
like you talk about the cinematics and the visuals being such a key component. Now you can take that to the next level and be immersive, where people are literally in it with this. So it's locked right now. My understanding is the full release will be on August 20th, but these NFT drops that are coinciding with it will allow people to have access to various locations and rooms within this world that you guys have created. Is that right?
Yes. Yeah. I mean, and to talk a little bit about NFTs in general, that's kind of been my main frustration, at least with a lot of the drops that I've seen. I mean, you know, we don't have to get into, you know, the people doing it just for the money grabs and all that, because that's clear. You know, obviously artists do enter the space and see that, oh, somebody can make, you know, I don't know, a bunch of money in, you know, one drop, and that's that. For me, the thing that's always been quite frustrating, at least from what I've seen, is like, look, artwork's beautiful, right? That's, you know, static. There's no question, and people should be selling their art and making money for it. But the idea of tying functionality to art in a virtual space, that to me is revolutionary. That truly revolutionary. And so the idea was like, okay, great, we can sell art that's inspired by the record, but what if owning that art grants you a key, grants you something even more than just the aesthetic pleasure of owning it and having that feeling of ownership, which is already so awesome. But in addition to that, what if it is a key? What if all of a sudden that just owning the NFT is just the beginning of this rabbit hole that you're able to go down through? And so really that was kind of the main thing, that when we sat around, I think it must have been really late February, because we've been working on this for a while. It was like, okay, so, you know, art, we can all make you know, animate something or say something that we love, but what if that is just, you know, that's what I want people to take away from this, is that by owning the NFTs, like, it doesn't have to end there. It's not just, oh, look at this is cool. It's like, oh my God, you know, when you enter the world, and again, maybe I might be saying a lot, my team might be fucking, you know, like, well, he's giving it all away. But, you know, when you enter the world, a lot of these NFTs are going to grant you access to rooms with unreleased music, unreleased videos that I've created, unreleased, you know, there's such a multitude of different experiences that you're able to have through the, you know, blanket of owning an NFT, that to me, it kind of transcends just the whole purchasing and ownership aspect of it. It's really functionality. That is the invitation that I want to give people, you know, that I think people deserve when they're fans, when they care to that extent. And so I can talk and talk and talk. You won't really understand until you're in the world and you can see what we've done. But like that's what gets me excited, is this idea of like, yeah, we're granting people access to something that is truly deeply personal and integrated with the art. And yeah, it kind of, it helps bring the art off the canvas, if you will.
Right. I mean, right now we can't get in until it unlocks. And does the unlock coincide with the album release?
Yes. So what we're going to be doing is, I'm going to release a single on the 20th, and that will be coinciding with it. It's a song called One More Trip, which kind of really paints the final picture of the black hole, of Earth falling inside, of this boy being lost in the cosmos. It's a very obviously experimental piece of film, but I'm really proud of it. It's probably my most ambitious and definitely expensive music video I've done to date. So I think people are really going to react to it. But yeah, so it coincides with that. And then the record, I'm hoping to release it either late September or early October. But really, this virtual world, to me, it's funny because it's going to come out before the record. But there's a lot, to me, this is kind of like, being in the virtual world is just the beginning. And then releasing the album it's going to fit so seamlessly. When we do drop the album, we're going to add extensions to the world. And that's something that we've been talking about, that this is just the first drop. This is just a teaser basically for the album, but the teaser is so good already that we're like, oh fuck, how are we going to top it for the actual album release? But we're definitely going to do a lot of things. You know, there's the kind of, it really is limitless. And that's something that was beautiful through COVID, is that meeting this group of guys who work at New Kino, and we kind of like gelled. And I mean, we talked a bit about storytelling and stuff, but I came to them with this story and they came to me with the tools and the ambition and the hunger to make that story a reality and to do all the things that I thought were ridiculous. And the beauty of it is that we're working in a virtual space, we're working in a digital environment, you know, so it truly is that the sky's the limit. So this is the first drop as a teaser. And then when we release the album, we're going to add extensions to the world. There's going to be obviously a new drop of NFTs coinciding for each song. I'm probably going to be putting up a lot of audio files as well, as NFTs, you know, but it's going to be, yeah, we're definitely going to level ourselves up. But this first drop really is the teaser. It's the entryway. It's the gateway drug into the world of Julian Lamadrid, myself, and obviously the album. So yeah, that's kind of the purpose.
Right, and I would anticipate that we may actually see you in there as well. Maybe some personal interactions, whether meet and greets or digital autograph sessions. I have the feeling that you'd get personally involved and be part of this world, and people may not even expect where you turn up.
Yeah, 100%. And we're like, I mean, in every single room that we've developed, in every single kind of like, you know, moment spent within the world, we're striving right now to create different touch points, you know, different moments where it's like, either it is a meet and greet, either it is a personal thank you, either it is you're hearing an unreleased song, either it is that you're, for some, you know, owning another piece of digital merch that you got in an ATM at, you know, one of the clubs or whatever. Like, there's all these different little interactions that we're going to splice in and Easter egg in, just to make that experience so much more rich. But definitely, I mean, I'll be a big part of it. And, you know, the NFTs are going to be coming out, and some of them, you know, there'll be one of 50 or one of 10. So the more rare that the NFTs actually get, the more of a, you know, probably personal experience you might have with me, with the art, and more of a look into the entire world and a more well-rounded view of it you're probably going to experience. But yeah, I mean, this free NFT, in reality, you're able to get inside the world, and that really is just this entry point. So I hope, you know, you guys are checking it out, because yeah, it's live right now. I don't want it to go sold out. I don't know how it's doing, but yeah, we'll take
a look in a moment. I just wanted to mention to you, when we were in pre-production getting ready for this and talking with the team here, we have a sister gaming division called Leet, where they're specific on esports and things of that nature. And they said, whoa, these guys listed WASD controls. So the development studio that's helping him behind this is serious about making something that's really immersive for gamers and people of that nature. Because if they weren't, we just have the arrow keys, right?
Exactly. And well, because that is what we're trying to do. We're trying to create an experience that is similar to a video game. You know, I want it to feel like, you know, the first moment that, I don't know, I was 10 years old or 8 years old at a friend's house, and he had Grand Theft Auto San Andreas, and we got into the world. You know, it is really that. It's like, it's Tron, you know, these are all the experiences that we have. It mainly, or a big portion of it, comes from games, and it comes from this world of this culture of, you know, video games. So yeah, we're definitely, there's a lot of moments. I want to tell you guys so much, but there are a lot of moments that we do play amongst it.
I think we may have gleaned a little bit of alpha out of you when you said Easter eggs. So there may be different things you can interact with in this world that you know, aren't obvious, but when you do, it will benefit you from being explorative and going around and trying different things.
Yeah, the beauty of it is like, look, like this is my first foray into this universe, this culture, this you know, kind of revolutionary future that we're going to see in the next up and coming years, you know, which is NFT, which is the blockchain. And this is my first foray into this whole thing. I'm building a world, and the beauty of it is that I don't plan on stopping, you know. So this is the first thing that we're doing, and as I get more comfortable, as I kind of get feedback from fans and get feedback from people that have already kind of interacted with the art that we're putting out, it's just going to get bigger, badder, and crazier. And so all these ideas, this idea of, you know, true interaction, of actually feeling like you're one with the environment and not just an overseer, is definitely the aspiration and the end goal. But yeah, so we'll see how it goes. But yeah, you can definitely expect to have a personal experience with the art. It won't just be one of those, you know, it's not just a blanket thing. I want outgrow the world based off people's experiences with it. So
Right,
it's gonna
and
be
you can
cool.
just imagine the possibilities as your career progresses and different releases happen, and thematically things
Exactly.
change, and what can change in the world. I'd love to just walk
Yeah.
through really quick for people that haven't had a chance to look at it yet. So this is what we're
Sure.
referencing. There's 4 NFTs listed here now, but this first one is available to claim now. This is the Rebels Prism, and if you look here at
Hmm.
more info, really the objective here was for you guys to reach out. Julian and his team wanted to reach out and invite the existing NFT communities to come explore what he's building in this virtual world. And to do so, there's various qualifiers here that you could do, but basically, if you had held, I think it was 1 CryptoPunk, if you had held 200 whale, a snapshot was taken, and you can just claim this just by paying the gas fee. And with this, you'll have access to the entry point to his world and be able to see what it's about and experience some different things. And then additionally, on the 20th, some of these other NFTs will unlock as well. So this Rebels Prism is an edition of 150. You want to claim that before those are gone. And on the 20th, there's some additional ones. We have here the ticket, which I've actually seen not a newer, but a live version of it that includes audio and some additional features, right? So this will unlock some various things. Again, priced at mint prices that are, you want to be inclusionary right here. You're letting people afford this and get in. You're not just going for a money grab. So I love to see that you're letting people of all different walks, whether it's free or they want to have more exclusive access, they can participate. So this is an addition of 50. There's also, as you mentioned, the different tiers, right? And so we go up to 0.16 ETH for this wanted poster, which is very cool, by the way. I can't wait to see what the audio is that goes along with it. And then also blackout, which right now is the highest tier. And all of them, again, this is 0.3 ETH. So we want people to participate. It sounds like you want as many people to take part and experience this and be part of this new drop.
Yeah, well, I mean, you kind of said it really well. I mean, we do want people to experience it. And when it was like, okay, if it was just NFTs, then I could price it, whatever. But I'm like, we're creating a whole virtual world, and I don't care about exclusive. I want as many people to be able to see this world, to be able to take part in it. So obviously the prices go up as it goes along, but really those first two and the Prism, what it is in the world, what it represents is that this Prism is this idea of belonging. The Prism, if you have it and you own it, it means that you're a rebel. It means that you're anti the neon god, that you will push for honesty, truth, the eternal, the infinite. And so really by people owning, the Prism in and of itself, it just says like, all right, we're one in the same clan. And like all of the communities that, I mean, everyone listening, the actual communities that you've been able to foster, what you've been able to build as a social token is exactly the aspiration I have for my own virtual universe and community. Like we want to belong, and like this idea of belonging that you guys have been able to cultivate, like that's inspirational beyond anything, especially in a time when like COVID, when it was hard, we're all alone, we're all doing our things, but like what I really want to do is kind of emulate that same idea of belonging that you guys have been able to do, whether it's Whale or CryptoPunk or Cyberkongs. Like it's this idea that we deserve to feel like that we're bigger than ourselves just as individuals, and that's what the universe wants to foster too. That's what being a rebel really is. It's going against the grain and pushing for something that you believe in. And so really like that's the whole idea. I mean, if I could have it my way, honestly, maybe, who knows, down the line I'll see what happens, but I want everyone to have a rich experience within that virtual world because I'm so proud of what we've created. So we'll see what happens. But yeah, it's cool. I mean, each one of them, we haven't written quite exactly what the experiences will be once you own the NFTs, but I'm going to start putting it in there in the descriptions. But I mean, if you'd like, I could go through the list as well of what they each mean and in terms of the whole universe and the experience.
Sure, it's up to you. I don't want to get you in trouble for revealing too much, but if you'll give it, we'll take it.
Look, I'll do a rundown, so I won't get into the nitty and gritty. But as I mentioned, it is a dystopian future that we've begun to paint and that we've begun to create. And in each of the descriptions, you can see that it kind of gives you a little bit more of an insight on what that world is like. The ticket in and of itself, it tells a story. I exist within the universe, but I actually, in the future, record labels and megacorps, like they've kind of been able to purchase the rights of people's appearances. And so rather than actually go and find some kid that they sign for, I don't know, $100,000, here's your record deal, and they own the kid's future and everything like that, they realize it's a lot more affordable, that they can just synthetically create their own pop stars. And what happens is that when I was younger, I gave away my rights for my appearance to, a big record label in the future. And what has happened is now that the rebellious me, the real me, is going around unplugging and taking back his own appearance. So that's kind of what you saw in the 15 minutes video. It's the real Julian versus this synthetic, holographic, vacuous version of the pop star. And so the two characters are the rebel and the pop star. And obviously, in doing this, you can move on now to the wanted poster. In doing this and going around and trying to sabotage, the big megacorps and the record labels, I've obviously got a bounty on my head from local authorities, which are kind of dwindling away anyway because humanity's kind of lost. But yeah, you can see here the apostate of the neon god is now on the run, a fugitive with no home. There's not much time left before the Earth crosses the event horizon. What lays beyond is unknown. So this is kind of just a picture of myself, the true me, the rebel character within the universe, holding his prism, holding his emblem of his, community. And then obviously the last one, which is, completely like very detailed and dense. This is one of the cities in the world in this dystopian future. We called it Prime City because, you can definitely see little hints and cheekiness within it that reflect the real world, real life. But it's obviously an Amazon reference that it's, there's only few remaining cities and corporations have begun to purchase cities from, the government. And this is one of the final cities, and there's nationwide blackouts going on at this point in time because of the gravitational pull of the black hole and how close it is in relation to Earth. And this is one of those, a sneak peek into that blackout. And you can see the pop star figure on a big billboard in the city with 15 minutes, kind of, the song out now, kind of being, taken away because of the blackout. But yeah, that's just a little description of them all. They're going to be coming out very soon. August 20th right now is the date, but definitely, follow the socials, and if you want to keep in contact, anybody who's watching this and who's interested, I'll obviously be posting quite regularly updates on when the drop's actually going to happen, and if music will coincide with the drop. But something just to end, something you did mention, which is kind of key, is that each of the NFTs go along with their own personalized score that is, unheard of other than the NFT in and of itself. So all the soundtracks that were made by me for each of the pieces. So that's another, bit of value, is just that, the sound and visual, I care about it all as an experience. So it's not just the visual. Yeah, that's it.
Sounds amazing. Some comments from the community. People were saying it sounds like an amazing plot for a movie or an anime. That some anime studios should take notes from you. And I think at the last report, was actually a couple of minutes ago, people in the chat were mentioning that 90 to 100 of the initial drop NFTs were already gone. So people need to hop on that if they want to be able to grab their own. And some other people had mentioned what they definitely are interested. They want to follow you closely. What's the best social to keep tabs on what you're doing and what's next for Julian?
I would probably say Instagram. I kind of despise Facebook. I'm terrible. I don't think I've been on it in a long time. Twitter I like more, but Twitter I use as kind of just like a thought dump stream kind of thing, where I just, anytime a sentence sticks out to me or something that I think sounds beautiful as just text, I'll post it there. It's probably not the most sensical of all of the different things, but yeah, Instagram's probably where I'm on most. You can find me there. Yeah, you can see on my Twitter is just me just like writing whatever comes to mind, so that's not exactly the most coherent, but my Instagram is really where you can see me. I enjoy Instagram most. If I had it my way, I probably would run away from all social media platforms as quick as I can, but it's a necessary evil at times. But yeah, to keep in contact with you guys and talk about things that I'm actually excited about and not just post selfies or take pictures of my breakfast, I really enjoy Instagram. So that's kind of another reason why I created this whole thing and why I've gone on this journey. It's just because like the thing that gets me excited about more than anything is art, and I'm signed to a record label right now, and it's kind of sad and frustrating to realize that a lot of the entire strategy for artists in the modern day world is just be an Instagram influencer, be a TikTok influencer, get your song go viral here. And like, I don't like that idea. I kind of think enigma and mystique and maintaining this personal like aspect of your life is really important. I think people will eventually value that, like Daft Punk, for example. Like I never want to, I know who they are as guys, but I never really want to see them take off the helmet. It's the same way I think about Martin Margiela, who's a designer. Like Margiela never did an interview. Same way I think about David Bowie. It's like I understand he is a man, but to me, he will always be this alien, this kind of outer worldly creature who blessed, humanity. And so that kind of balance between giving away myself as a person and, who I am, I'm in an online space trying to be authentic. It's definitely something I struggle with, but you can obviously see on Instagram, it's where I post everything and I keep everyone posted and everyone updated. So yeah, if you want to follow the drop and follow all the release dates and stuff, just give it a follow right there, and I'll make sure to keep you guys posted.
Amazing stuff. And I think you've really found a home here in the NFT space with, what your interests and how your artistic vision comes together. This gives you more tools to be able to really bring that and immerse people in a personable way. With your art and not having to just put yourself out there. One thing I found cool was the juxtaposition of, the new material that you're doing versus some of the old. It's almost like it's more assertive. It's almost like you're taking what the expectations of, like you said, with having to become an influencer or whatever, and turning it on its head, right? And said, hey, I'm going to exert my will and do it my way. So I think NFTs are the perfect platform to be able to do that. And to your point, the mystique, one of my favorite artists is Xcopy. I don't even know if it's a guy, girl, people, what, glitch art that could give you a seizure. I love it, and can't get enough of it. And So definitely understand where you're coming from in that regard. One thing I think is super cool is, you talked about leaving Dubai because of, looking for that creative atmosphere to really feed your creativity and having to go to a physical location that could help amplify what you have. The NFT space provides that almost in a virtual setting, right? Now it's not a geographic border, right? Now it's people that are creative being able to go into an environment where it's not so, it's not people's skin tones, it's not their gender, it's whatever animal or avatar or weird end symbol that they have up representing them, and it's the art that they put forward. So definitely a home for you.
Yeah, no, that's exactly it. And in reality, we're able to create our own reality in that space, and us together as people who care about connectivity, care about art, care about experiences, and like lifting one another up, like not based on, as you said, race, sexual orientation, or gender. I always talk about this with my friends and stuff like this. It's like, I am Mexican, but I was born and raised in Dubai, and I went to British schools my whole life, international schools in Dubai. And so I've always had this very difficult relationship with even nationality, which is something quite simple. People say, oh, I'm from here. So people ask me where I'm from, and it's like my heart almost drops because I don't know where I'm from, because am I Mexican because I visited Mexico, 2 weeks every year because my parents grew up there, even though they, moved there when they were kids from Spain. Like there's all these different things that I'm like, when it comes down to it, it's like Latino, African American, Caucasian, Hispanic, Buddhist, raw Buddhist, Christian, bisexual, heterosexual, homosexual, all these different terms. Like they really ultimately, they don't say something about your soul. And as people, to me, I think we deserve to be, we deserve to transcend all labels. And what we can create is a world where it's like, look, I love art, and then you love this art, so let's be friends. Or you know what, I love watching this sport, whether it's esport, whether you like it too. Okay, cool, let's be friends. And it's like, that's really something that excites me about all of this, man. I've met so many amazing people on this journey of creating this art, on this journey of putting it out into the world. And it's like, I was looking for a community, I was looking for friends in all the wrong places, when in reality, like, look, this is a community, the NFT space, that begins with art and connectivity. And I think that mantra and that feeling and that energy is like so infectious and so beautiful, because I don't see that out in the world. I especially don't see that in the music industry, talking to other artists and kids who are making music. Like, it's just it's what the world needs, man. And so really, thank you for giving me the experience and the opportunity to even interact with you guys, and for you guys to hear my story and hear a bit about the world that we're creating. Because like, honestly, it's amazing. It's an exciting period. And it begins with the arts. And that's always what I want to remind people. It's like, I just hope you dig the music. I hope you dig the art. I hope you have an experience, and because that's all I can give, really.
Well, thank you so much for sharing it with us today. We're definitely excited to take this journey with you and see what, this drop is and where you take it next after that. So once again,
Yeah.
thank you so much for your time this afternoon and sharing with us. I'd love to take everyone out with more of your music, just so they can experience a little bit more Julian Lamadrid. And I'd like to cue up Patience. Julian, thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you guys. Cheers. And yeah, don't worry, all the art's gonna come out soon. The NFTs will be dropped, and I hope each and every one of you gets to experience the what we're building. And yeah, again, just thank you guys so much, and thank you, brother.
Thank
Cheers,
you.
dude. All right.